everyone. Let me introduce to you Nick Drewett, engined by Starling, Amit, Malik, EBRD, Marta, Życińska, Mastercard, and Patryk, Nowakowski, Santander Bank, Polska. So, today we all know that being digital is not an option. It's a necessity. So you have to be digital to compete. But what can you do as a bank, as a fintech, to gain advantage over other competitors who are already digital? What can today companies do?
Happy to start, okay. So you're definitely right, and I think that it's not only necessity, but as you mentioned, sometimes we have already only digital, and I think that it's really important to differentiate between digital and mobile, right? Because I think that what we should be talking about primarily is mobile banking. Today in Poland, we have 14 million consumers that do mobile banking only. So it's a huge number, and it will definitely grow, especially with Gen Zers, the later topic that we will speak about. But looking at the future and how to compete, we did this research called Future of Payments, and a couple of very interesting things came out in that area. The first one is that the future is the super apps. The phenomenon is called the super app. And the super app is something where banks will have to do way more and tokenize way more in their apps than they do today, because it's supposed to be the center of the universe in the future for the consumer, and this is definitely when the choice can be made between one app or another. The second thing is security. And I think that especially when we deliver the super apps in the future, it's going to be absolutely crucial that they are secure. And this is when we can have a bit of a discussion on AI and machine learning, which I think is crucial in supplying the security. And we have already really cool tools today to solve these problems.
So do you agree from the more...
Sorry, I don't disagree, but I'll give you a slightly different or complementary perspective. So I'm from Starling Bank in the UK. We're a digital-only bank. We've grown in the relatively short period that Starling has been around we have 3 million retail customers in the UK and 500,000 business accounts, which is 8% of the UK market. We're a digital-only neo-bank. We run entirely on our own cloud-native in-house platform, which gives us a huge structural advantage. So we can choose how we compete. We run at 10% of the cost base of any comparable bank in the UK for various reasons. The way we've chosen to compete is on trust and brand. So we put a lot of effort. We believe that because we don't have physical branches, we have to work extra hard to build that trust and build the relationship with customers. And so we do many things to work hard at that. I'll give you one example, which is our call centers. So our view is that any call to our call center is a failure of our digital product. And for that reason, when someone calls the call center, they go straight through to an agent. There's no recorded messages trying to dissuade them from calling the call center. There's no IVR, there's no buttons to press. They go straight through to a human, and that person there are no instructions to that person on call handling time. Their mission is to help the customer solve the problem. And because we have the one modern system that has the single view of everything, they can solve the problem. And that is one of the key things that has driven up the reputation of Starling Bank in the UK, and we've topped we're in the fortunate position in the UK that there's a mandatory customer service assessment done every year by the Competition and Markets Authority, and all of our competitors have to post the results in their branches and on their websites, which basically has Starling Bank at the top. It says where their bank ranks and where Starling is. And so we get that free advertising. That every branch of every one of our competitors says you should really be banking with Starling for customer service.
But this is pretty much user experience in your extended super app. This is the user experience, what you're talking about, the call center, in the extended life of the app, right? Because it is connected, especially if you're digital only. It's very cool.
Yeah. I mean, Nick and I were having this discussion in the speakers' lounge earlier today. I mean, unlike my fellow panel members here, I'm not an operator, but an investor in digital banks and payment companies. And I would agree with a lot that is being said here. But Starling's a great example in UK. I mean, if you look at the last decade, you've had hundreds of challenger neobanks that have launched, and there's not that many that are actually successful. There's a handful of players that have really been able to create a playbook to be successful, and not just be successful initially, but to remain successful over time. And so it's the whole neobank, digital bank really changed the paradigm of traditional banking with new products, with customer engagement, with, as you mentioned, being able to operate at a cost base that is so much lower than the traditional banking system. And I think, but all of that's great, but I think what is important is how do you maintain that competitive advantage? How do you maintain that? How do you sustain that? And how do you get a bigger share of the wallet of the customer? And I think the answer, for me at least from the outside, is the use of AI and machine learning, investment in technology. To be able to churn out those products, you need to have a technology system, a technology stack that's both flexible and scalable. But also customer engagement, like you said. I think that's in my view, banks and fintech companies that are going to engage with their customers and understand their true needs and offer not just the best product or the best bundle, are really going to be able to come up with that winning combination.
I think Patryk can answer the question how traditional banking, but still digital banking, can maintain a competitive advantage.
I hope you're not calling us traditional bank.
Well, you are in some way a traditional bank, but digital and very innovative. So how can you maintain this competitive advantage?
We are traditional bank. Well, we are digital bank that still operates with branches because this is what part of the customers expect of us, right? And this is where you actually gain competitive advantage. It's not by having a mobile app only, it's an important element, but the competitive advantage is when you delight your customers, right? And when you make them ambassadors of your brand and have them bring their family, their friends, and recommend your brand because it really brings value. And how it does it today, what I think we call digital, is pure commodity. I think all the banks have mobile apps, all the banks have internet banking. A lot of the banks are doing investments to modernize their backends, which is not directly visible to the customers, but has a direct impact on the customer experience and the pace at which the bank is fulfilling customers' requests. But I would be a little bit provocative here and ask, is a digital bank today a bank that has a mobile app, or is it rather a bank that has a branch in metaverse, or is it a bank that will help you to buy NFTs, or is it a bank that will help you take care of the security of your private data? I think this is going rather in that direction. So I think with all due respect, but what you were saying, that is the traditional looking at digital bank, right? Which I think soon will be not enough.
That's a great approach as we want to talk about the Gen Z, because all you talk about, the security, customer service, customer experience, super apps, it all comes down to two values. On one hand, trust, understood by security issues, and on the other hand, convenience, being wherever your client is, right? Because it's about being wherever your client is. So is Gen Z in any way influencing the modern banking, and how?
So if you mind, I go first, right? And then you can criticize what I said. I think I'm not the right person to answer that question because I'm 40 plus, although very young at heart. But I think it's a mistake to put an or, so security or convenience. That should be security and convenience, right? And I think there are many young people who are acutely aware of the extent of threat in the cyberspace. I think in the opening session today we have all seen the deep fake with the Prime Minister. I think among us there is part of people who hope that what he was saying in that deep fake was actually truth.
We don't comment on that.
Let's not do politics. But I think the young people are really aware, right? And I actually have come across young people younger than I who say they will not do mobile banking because they are aware how dangerous can that be, right? And the role of the bank is to do the security and care for the customer, right? Because here the level of possibilities that the bank have to protect their customers compared to what the customers can do themselves to protect themselves is not comparable.
So you might be surprised, but I won't disagree completely. I agree that I was looking at research and to kind of understand globally what people think. Do they rather think security or are they actually thinking convenience or user experience? And 52% of the research that we have or we do, they say security, 41% they say that it has to be easy to use and convenient. So security comes first in general response. But I think that with Gen Zers, it's a bit of a different story. I think that because they were born with phones in their hands, I think that, and this is where I disagree, I don't think that they are fully aware of the issues with security when they do banking or actually anything, gaming, whatever they do online. And I have 3 Gen Zers at home, so I observe them very much, and they have banking apps, they have cards, and I see how they behave, and they do not see a lot of risks that are coming. So I think that for them, it's like, you know, in Maslow's, for them, this security kind of comes as is, because they were born with that, this is what they know, they don't really know the world before. So I think that what is really important is that we need to, all of us, as we sit here, we really have to educate and do a lot of education about trust, about security, and what comes with it, especially Gen Zers.
Amit, Nick, any remarks on Gen Z?
Sure. I mean, I think Gen Z don't have an exclusive right to the opinion that banking should be like Netflix. It should be convenient, it should work, it should offer a good experience, it shouldn't go down, it shouldn't be difficult to work with. So I don't think it's an either or, as was said. I think resilience is incredibly important. I think liquidity is incredibly important. Don't underestimate. If a Silicon Valley bank, if there was a loss of confidence in a digital bank, the Gens, they'd be the first out of the door with the click of the button to move their money elsewhere. They're well informed. So I don't think there's any lessening of the need for trust. I think what there is an increase in expectations for convenience and availability. And I think, and listening to Nassim Taleb talk this morning about anti-fragile systems. I know that certainly in the UK, many banks are fragile. From a technology perspective, they've got thousands of systems, they have accreted complexity that has built up over decades. There's code in there that dates from the 60s. They have disaster recovery sites that are used once a year at best. This is not a Netflix-like, always-on capability. And so I think there is an increasing demand and a need to lean into the problem of legacy systems and modernize banks to meet the expectations of everyone.
And I think the expectations is the key. Like the expectations of Gen Z is obviously very different from what we have been used to. They are digital natives, and they have grown up with the technology around them. So I think if it's simple, transparent, easy to use, they will engage. And I think it's up to the financial institutions to invest in that engagement and to develop products and services that fit their needs and their expectations. And I think that's where, I think to say that, trust is definitely very important. This is a generation that is extremely aware of itself, of its surroundings. They have access to all the information that they need. And I would agree, they're not fools. Like if tomorrow they were to feel that there is no trust, they would be the first ones. They would vote with their feet. And so I think it's not an either or question. It has to be both.
So as we're running out of time, but we still have one important topic. So let's go with one sentence remarks on this topic, because it connects to the Gen Z and both convenience and security. So big tech that is expanding both into payments, both into banking. One sentence, one most crucial thought about the partnerships or cooperating or competing with the big tech in the financial field.
So my one sentence is that I think that we should definitely do what we are the best at and partner to do the great.
Partnerships, embedded finance, I think those two together would be the way to compete with big tech for traditional financial institutions.
I'll say, I think the challenge is to stay relevant, to be on the side of the customer, to understand their needs and meet them.
Well, I think banking is an immensely demanding and complex business. The example of SVB that fell because they weren't managing their ALCO book is a great example of how not to do banking. And there is a lot of knowledge and hard work to run a bank. So if I were a big tech, having in mind 50% plus effective taxation rate on the banks, I would never enter that business.
Well, let's hope they hear it. Maybe they do. Thank you very much for this discussion, for the brief thoughts on the big tech and the whole banking system. Nick Drewett, Amit Malik, Marta Życińska, Patryk Nowakowski. Thank you very much for listening.